did you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today I'm going to be giving you the update to the Almost Immortal Warrior tank, the Dragonknight tank from previous updates, in fact from 2016. He's still going strong and he is possibly stronger than ever. This is for the Dragon Bones DLC. Now I know it's out on PC, it's due to be out on console in about a week or so, but this is working solid on both patches as of now and obviously when it's released on console as well. The whole build is going to be done obviously on the live server for the PS4, so the CPs aren't 720 yet, but I will go over the CPs with a quick clip from PC showing you where to put them all and where they're most optimal for the next update and obviously for now as well. So first of all I'm going to go over the stats, and if you're familiar with this you will know that this is a health tank for good reason. 47.7k max health, 15.6k max stamina, short of 10k max magicka. We are almost cap resistance. If you gold out every single piece of armor, your magicka resistance or spell resistance will cap. Your physical won't, although we've plugged it a bit with the CPs. However, if you do get a minor buff from a healer, perhaps combat prayer, something like that, you will hit cap anyway. And this is without a resist buff. You don't actually need one. Now, our magicka recovery at the moment is sitting on 1.8k. Now, that will be higher. If we pop a potion real quick, you can change... Oh, wait for the potion to come back. You can change your food. You don't have to have max health, max stam all the time. If you're comfortable enough with your sustain and it's not a block-intensive fight, you can switch to, instead of max health, max stam, you can switch to max health, magicka recovery. And if you pop this with a potion at the same time, you can see we're now on 2.471. 2.5 almost magicka recovery. That is disgusting, which means we can use our magicka abilities, meaning our heals and our shields a lot more often. Now, vampirism, we are a max stage 4 vampire for good reason. I will go over all the passives in a little bit, but this is very, very strong and essential to the build. This Mundustone we're using is max magicka recovery, so that obviously contributes to our recovery at the top there, as you can see. And of course the food I've just gone over, which is max health, magicka recovery, or you can use max health, max stam, entirely up to you. If you do use max health, max stam, you can block a little bit more, but just bear in mind you will have to pace your skills a little bit more strategically, shall we say. Now, I'm going to go over the skills first of all. This is very important. In fact, do you know what? Let's make a change. I'm going to go over the gear. This is very, very important. We're using 5 leeching, so you can use a sword and board, or jewelry, or armor. It doesn't matter in which order, as long as you've got 5 pieces on both bars. Now, the easiest weapon to get, of course, because I do want to defend in one, is Lord Warden's Courage. Now, this comes from Lord Warden himself in normal or veteran versions of Imperial City Prison. It does come with a damage shield enchant. You can use that if you want. I quite like it because I heavy attack a lot, so it's always proccing quite a lot. However, you can change this to a crusher if you prefer, or possibly a weapon and spell damage reduction glyph, which reduces the target's damage. So that is entirely up to you. But I've got a sword and board. The shield is also from the quest in Imperial City Prison, so if you do that at level 50, make sure you're at least 160 CPs, so then this isn't lower than your level, and you can get the shield from the quest. Now this is unique, so you can't use 2 of them unless one is a different color to the other, so 1 purple, 1 gold, but you can get a regular one just by looting ads, or perhaps the last boss if you're lucky, or the chests inside the dungeon. You can use 2 of the swords, however. The sword isn't unique. So sword and board of leeching, or the other set if you want. 5 pieces. First of all, max health, healing received, which is essential. Healing received again, I know it says taken, but it's the same thing, which is also essential. I'm going to show you all these stack and bonuses as we go. And when you take damage, you have an 8% chance to summon a cloud of leech and poison under the attacker that deals 1399 poison damage in a 4-meter radius once a second for 5 seconds. All the damage done will heal you, equivalent of the damage that was just output. So this looks on paper very, very weak. It looks like you're only getting like 1.5k heal every second for 5 seconds. False. All of the heal and receive bonuses and mending bonuses and all that kind of stuff, major mending, minor mending, whatever you're using, they all stack a lot. And of course, I'm going to explain how that works and I'm going to demonstrate it as well, and then it will make a lot more sense. But this is very, very strong. On paper it doesn't look that good, but it is. And also 8% proc chance doesn't sound that much, but it's not like when you fire off a light attack, 8% chance when you fire a light attack. This is 8% chance when you're hit. So any damage you take, and as a tank, especially a health tank where you're really beefy and you can take quite a lot of damage, you are being hit all the time. This will proc left, right and center. Previously we were using 2-piece pirate skeleton. Now this is still a choice if you prefer to. Now this One piece bonus gives us max resistance gives us resistance towards our physical and our spell resistance. So it's really, really nice. But the second piece bonus will give us major protection, reducing the damage we take by 30% for 12 seconds with a 15-second cooldown. So there's only a 3-second gap if you can keep this up all the time. But it does defile us, reducing our healing received by a set amount as well. So we don't really want this up all the time, but it's nice when it is. Our healing's down, but our reduction is also up as well. So it's a very, very nice set, and you can manipulate it as well. If you have a damage shield on, just for example, have a shield on, you can see my health bar's coated, that won't fire off. You can control it. Once your damage shield falls off, then it can fire, and that's very, very important alongside of our second set, or third set if you like. Iron Blood. This gives us max health, more physical resistance, more spell resistance. See, we don't need a resist buff. And when you take damage, just like the Legion, 8% chance, you can gain major protection for 10 seconds. This one's 12, this one's 10. Do they stack? No, they do not. Do they cancel each other out and then reapply it? Yes, they do. So you can tactically kind of keep major protection up all the time if you're lucky. Now, the negative effect for this is you actually get a speed reduction bonus, or debuff if you like. So you move a bit slower. But most of the time you're standing still anyway. If not, you're moving in small areas from one place to another. But it's quite a low duration debuff. And this can overwrite it and get rid of it. So you can stack them both. You can have this running and then keep your damage shields up until this is almost run out. Then drop a damage shield and deliberately let this proc over top. Then, when this has finished cooldown again, this can be applied on top of it. You see where I'm going? One on top of the other over and over and over and over and over. However, you don't have to do that. If you would prefer, you can just have one piece of Malabeth. So you get increased max health and increased resistances flat across the board, without the need to turn into a skeleton, without the need to have minor defile, and without the need to 100% uptime on major protection. This set, by the way, just note that you do turn into a skeleton. It does lag out a little bit. Sometimes your block doesn't work, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to avoid that, make sure that you put on the skeleton polymorph. Now, there is a quest that this comes from. I will put that in the description. Where is it? Polymorphs, appearance, polymorphs. This one here. Acquired by completing the quest, The Bargain's End. Now what this does, it turns you into a skeleton, exactly the same as the Pirate Skeleton helmet does. So when you do change, you don't physically transform because you're already there, and that defeats the lag or the dropout of a skill or a block. However, like I said, if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. And instead of messing about with all that stuff, you just have major protection from this set, and just keep extra health and extra resist combined. One other choice, remember, is a previous setup as well, is you can have Malabeth 2-piece, which will give you major vitality when this is active, 6% chance to proc up for being hit. Beam attaches to the target, you heal, and it increases all of your healing by 30%, including the leeching, which we're going to get to. But personal preference at the moment, I like one of these and one of these. Iron Blood, by the way, although I didn't already say, comes from Falkreath Hold, which is in the Horns of the Reach DLC. Pirate Skeleton comes from Blackheart Haven. The Shoulder comes from the Undaunted chests in Gratwood, Deshan, and Wayrest, or Stormhold, sorry. But the Helmet of Malabeth, if you want the 2-piece of that, actually comes from Wayrest, so it's 2 in Veteran. Now, the Leechin comes from Imperial City Prison, as I've already noted, so you do need 2 DLCs to be able to get all this stuff. But once you've got it, you will not be disappointed. It's very, very strong. The most important thing to note, of course, is that you have 5 of each on both bars. Doesn't matter which order everything is in. Doesn't matter if you've got Iron Blood, Sword and Board, or Leechin chest. It doesn't matter in which order, as long as you have 5 and 5, and then the 2-piece monster helmet when you switch bars as well. Now, you do not have to go onto Vet to get the armor. You do to get the helmet. You don't to get the armor. The armor you can get on normal, farm the hell out of it with a couple of friends, and you'll get all the pieces you need eventually, and then you can just upgrade them. Jewelry, of course, if you want the purple stuff, you do have to go on Vet, but if you don't, then you can obviously just get the blue stuff and it'll be absolutely fine. Magicka recovery on all, because we're going to need that, and I'll show you why in the skills. Trait-wise, defending on the sword. Nirnhoned on the shield, because that actually gives you much, well, not massive amount, but it does give you more resists than the reinforced on the shield specifically. The other pieces of armor it does not, except for the hands and the belt, but you don't usually use reinforced, or most people don't usually use reinforced on the small pieces because the bonus is too small. So having those Nirnhoned is not even relevant anyway. I use them for sturdy, which is what I'm now getting to. Large pieces, reinforced. Bigger bonus to your resists. So the head, the chest, big bonuses to resist. Again, reinforced. Health on everything. The shoulder, as far as the glyph is concerned, this does count as a small piece. However, as far as resistance is concerned, this counts as a large piece. You'll notice that's 2813. So is the helmet. They're exactly the same. So the biggest bonus you'll get out there is a reinforced. Again, the legs, large piece, reinforced again. So your resists are huge. The small pieces where the resistance are quite low, because they're like 1,000 or so, sturdy, sturdy, sturdy. Block cost reduction. Now, in Dragon Bones, the DLC, block cost reduction was affected. So the block base cost is cheaper. It used to be 2.16 or 2.14. I don't remember exactly. Now it's 1.76 or 1.74. It's 1.7 anyway. Let's ignore the little digits for now. Which means it's cheaper. So the less stamina we have. Before, obviously, 4 blocks were out of juice. Now we've got cheaper costs, so it's quite nice. But also the way they've affected it as well is that a lot of people were perma blocking. It was costing around 80 or so, maybe almost 90 per block, which is ridiculous. They've now made it so that diminished returns kick in quite heavily. So the more block cost reduction you have, the less effective it is. I think the cheapest you can get your block down to now is 488. This particular setup, based on the CPs, based on the sturdy traits, if you gold them out, our block cost is about 715. Now, just note, if you have 56 points into block cost reduction in your CPs, if you have 4 sturdy pieces, and if you have 1 glyph giving you block cost reduction, you will get your block cost down to 688, which is quite nice. Not massively reduced in terms of what we've got so far. I think we're on, actually we're not 615, it's 715, we're on 750. Now, for argument's sake, just through lots and lots and lots of testing, if you have 4 sturdy, 1 jewelry glyph, reducing the cost, and 56 points into block cost reduction, your block will cost you 688 stamina per block. Now, let's just remove 1 sturdy piece. So we've got 3 sturdy instead of 4. Your block cost is now 660. See what happened there? The more sturdy pieces you have, or the higher percentage reduction you have overall, the less effective it is. So it actually pays to have less sturdy than more. Unless, of course, you want to go really, really, really low and make sure everything is sturdy, everything's maxed out, and everything's all glyphed and all the rest of it. You can go down to 488, but it's just way too low, because to do that, you are going to lose your magicka glyphs, your recovery, meaning you can't fire off your magic abilities anywhere near as much. You lose almost 600 magicka recovery. It's a negative effect for something that you really don't need. I will go over more return for stamina as to how effective this actually is based on the way it's set up, but that's something you need to consider for now. The more block cost reduction you have, the less effective it is overall. Now, our block is about 750, I think possibly 758 at most, or at least, sorry. Now, if you do go with a glyph on your jewelry, that will put it down to about 715, which is not too bad. But again, don't forget there are diminished returns. I know it should be less than that, but it's not. Okay, and just to underline a point as far as blocks are concerned, I did say this in November 2016 when this build first came out, and it's no different. Morrowind has nothing to do with it. Block when you need to, or when you have to, not because you can. And what I mean by that is, don't just hold this. That's not going to teach you anything. You're going to skip mechanics, and you're actually going to run out of juice. When the big stuff comes in, the big heavy attacks, block it. If it's not a big heavy attack, face tank it. You've got shit tons of health, you can handle it. Okay, now, gears covered. Just remember, really important points, especially for this set. Healing received is key, boosting that heal. Now, in the skills, you're going to see where this is going as well. Skills, skills, skills. Okay, Igneous Shield, this is incredibly important. I know it doesn't say so in the stats, but this is based off of max health. The higher your health is, the stronger this shield is. Now, obviously we have 47k, almost 48k health, which is almost 50 or so when we pop a Warhorn. This will give your group almost a 5k damage shield per person, up to 6 people, yourself included. However, for yourself, your shield is 200% stronger, so almost a 15k shield. Look at my health bar. See that purple kind of overlay? That's my damage shield. It's huge. Lots and lots of damage that I can protect myself from. And remember, because I'm not using block cost reduction, I'm using magicka recovery, I can use this quite a lot. Small magicka bar, but it fills quick. Rather than a large magicka bar that once it's out, it's out. So you can use that a lot. Now, this is in the Earth and Heart skill line. It's the 3rd skill that you unlock. Morph it to Igneous Shield. Also note that when you do fire this off, you gain Major Mending. So for pressing this, see the little yellow buff there? 3, 2, 1, 0. While that's active, so shield first, heal second. you will gain 25% increase on any heals you fire off, anything that comes from you. Your own heal, your self heal, which I'm getting to in a second, and leeching. So leeching's based off the damage. It also stacks off of your healing received and your healing done. Next is Dragon Blood, Green Dragon Blood to be specific. It's from the Draconic Power skill line. It's the third one you unlock. Don't morph it to Coagulating Blood. That's based off of Max Magicka. We don't hardly have any. This is the morph you want, and it is based off of your missing health. So the more health you have, the more risk you can take to go really low, and the less health you have remaining, percentage-wise, the stronger this will be. So it's not a flat 10, 12k or whatever. It's based off of what is missing. So the lower you go, the stronger it is. Also note that just said 37% of your missing health. Also gives you stamina health regen. Also gives you minor vitality. Minor vitality increases your healing received by 8%. That includes this heal and your leeching, and it stacks with Major Mending. You can see where we're going with this. But 37%. Now, what I said about the shield, Major Mending. Get onto the right bar first. Try again. 45% of your missing health. Igneous first, heal second. Always. Igneous, then heal. Pierce Armor. This is in the Sword and Board skill line, One Hand and Shield specifically. First ability you unlock, it's a taunt. Lasts 15 seconds. That means that basically you just run up and stab the target. He's only going to hit you now. He's not going after anybody else until that runs out. Look at the buff timers underneath the skeleton. See that shield with the split in it? That's a taunt. The rest is a debuff. Keep that on the target at all times. Do not let it run out. You can reapply it if you want. You can just sustain it. You can heavy and taunt. Heavy and taunt. Heavy gives you stamina back, by the way, if you didn't know. But don't do that on the Manticore in Vet, Sanctum, or Fidia. If you over taunt, it will run wild and kill the group. Keep a decent uptime on it, but don't over spam it. Now, at the same time as applying a taunt, it does also apply a 12-second debuff. Major Breach and Major Fracture, meaning the physical resistance and the spell resistance of the target is reduced by 5280. For the DPSs out there, that affects your damage because it stacks with your passive or set penetration for yourself and whatever the group supplies as well. So if you're at, say, 13k penetration on yourself, and that's how much damage you can pump out, that's how much you go through the resistances, this will add another 5, pushing you to 18.2, meaning your target is at 0. So take this into consideration when you're talking about setting up your penetration for your DPS. However, we're talking about tanks now. This is a debuff. Enjoy. Next, Absorb Magicka. This was defensive posture. This is also in the Sword and Board skill line. Third one you unlock. You get it quite early. While having it slotted, you reduce the amount of damage you take while you're blocking. So you're tanky as hell anyway, but now you reduce the amount you take while blocking. Also, it reduces the cost of blocking for but 8%, which also stacks with other stuff as well, like Sturdy and obviously Shadow Guard or Shadow Ward even in your CPs, and block cost reduction glyphs if you have them. So be very, very careful not to stack too much in block cost reduction, but this on its own is absolutely fine. Also, when you activate this, you put a shield on yourself for 30 seconds. It doesn't deflect or shield you from everything, but what it will absorb is one Magicka projectile. That could be a lightning shot, a fireball, anything that has direct damage on you that is magic based. You will absorb it and you will heal yourself for 16% of your max health. Again, this is based on max health. That's essential. The more health you have, the more efficient or effective this skill is. The 24k shield is huge. But, take note. Here we go again. Remember what I said about Igneous first? If you got this active, it's on already. You're about to get hit by a fireball. Pop Igneous first. This now heals you for 20% of your max health, not 16. And it stacks with healing received and all the rest of it. Healing received doesn't show up in your stats, but it does stack with it when you get the raw heal itself. And it can crit. So you keep this on. If you're going to get hit by something, the shield will disappear and you'll receive a heal. It's very, very, very strong. If you're in a situation, for example, Raka or Lord Warden, if you're familiar with those, and he fires off his machine gun, he'll fire a Magicka shot, then another, then another, and another. That will hurt. You can block it, but you can also put this on, and it'll absorb it and heal you. Put it on again, he'll absorb it and heal you, and you can stay alive. When it comes to the phase on Lord Warden, for example, 65 and 35% health, there'll be 4 shadows around the room. Taunt them all, so they're off the group, and you will get peppered with Magicka shots. Put this on, you cannot die. You'll heal, put it on again. It's insane. So powerful. Don't leave home without it. Bone Shield. Now this one is morphed the wrong way. I do apologize because this is going to be changed when the new DLC hits console. But this is in the Undaunted skill line. It's Bone Shield. It's the 4th one down. Starts off as Bone Shield. You want to morph this to Bone Surge. Now the reason is this one does damage back based on how much the shield is. But you don't want to get that one. You want to get the one that gives you just the shield and then gives the group the shield as well. Both do the same thing except one's got an additional bonus. Now what this does is this absorbs damage on you equivalent of 30% of your max health, which is essential. Pay attention again to the max health stuff. The higher your health, the larger the shield. Now this comes with a synergy. This here, Ignis Shield shields you and 5 others. Bone Shield shields you and 3 others, but they must take the synergy to activate their own shield. This one's by default, this one they have to take it. As you can see, yes, they do stack. So it's an incredible amount of mitigation for yourself. But if they take the damage shield synergy, currently on console, they receive a 10-second damage shield, which gives them the equivalent of 60% of their max health covered by the shield itself. This has changed. It doesn't do this anymore. Now, what this does instead is it lasts 6 seconds instead of 10, so the time is less, but the damage shield for your group members is 100% of their health. So it's a massive, massive damage shield, and yes, it stacks with Ignis Shield as well. You have to take this synergy. You should have done all along anyway, but especially now, make sure you take it. Now, if you morph this to Bone Surge, not only does it do that, but it also gives you the 3 members that actually have the shield. It gives them major vitality as well, increasing their healing received by 30%. It is insane, and they keep that heal and receive bonus for the full 6 seconds even if the shield falls off. So morph this to Bone Surge and make sure that your friends or allies are taking that bloody synergy, because it is very, very strong. Now don't forget also that does cost stamina quite a bit, so if you want to keep that active, heavy attack, then you can cast it. Heavy attack again, and you can cast it. Or you can do heavy Ignis, heavy Bone Shield. You can see what I mean here. I'm using the scales as such. Keeping stamina up, using stamina. Keep magic up, use magicka. They're balancing off each other, and I am keeping shields up all day long. You don't have to be as active with it as that, but that's something you can do. Also, Ignis gives back stamina, but we'll get to that in the passives. So 1 cost magic, 1 cost stamina. Yes, they stack. Ultimate on the front bar. Now, this is very, very strong, hugely underrated. I know in PvP it's abused, but in PvE it is very, very strong. This is, again, in the Sword and Board skill line, as you'd expect, because you're a tank, you're using this stuff. This is your oh shit button. 135 ultimate, so it's incredibly cheap, and while it's active, you will actually block for 7 seconds for free. Full run speed, full use of all your skills, full heavy attack usage, and all of your one-hand and shield abilities are free. Which means your taunt is free, your absorb magicka is free, everything's free, and you can heavy attack from underneath it. Move around, res people, whatever you've got to do within those 7 seconds is up to you. You cannot drop your block until the seconds run out. It's not like this and you can accidentally switch bars or anything. You can even switch bars while it's active. Watch this. Watch my stamina. Stamina's not moving. Not moving at all. It's all free. Then it runs out, you're back to normal again, and then your taunt's cost. This is very, very important for stuff like Arthurian Archive, where you're tanking axes. Especially multiples. For that, by the way, I would recommend going health and stam food, unless you're very, very comfortable. You have to block a lot, you have to heavy attack a lot if you can help it. Taunt all of them to keep them with you. If you pop that block ulti, taunt, they're all yours. Didn't cost you anything, and you can heavy attack your stamina back just before it falls off and you're back in business. Really, really, really strong. I know a lot of people haven't really experimented with it, and they prefer to go perma block, but trust me, it's a very, very powerful skill. Also, I know people like to use Warhorn. There's nothing wrong with that. I've got Warhorn on this particular setup, but like I said, this is no shit button. For those that go, you should be using a Warhorn instead, well, good luck with that if you've got 140 ultimate and that's all you've got in your pool. If you're about to die, you got 140 or 150 or even 200, and you haven't got enough to fire off a Warhorn right now and you're going to die, fire it. It is your oh shit button. It is there for a reason. Don't let people start giving you trouble because you use this instead of a Warhorn when you were about to wipe the group for doing so. Use it when you need it. Next skills, back bar. This is a bit of a flex slot, but I'll explain that in a moment. Choke and Talons. This is in Draconic Power. Now, this will pin a set amount of targets within close proximity to you, and will also apply minor maim to them all. So it'll root them on the spot, and it will debuff them, making them do less damage. So there's the claws. Now, All the enemies within the vicinity of that, if they can be clawed, will have this effect on them for 4 seconds and reduce the damage they do to you and everybody else. Very, very powerful indeed, and really good for controlling a mass group of ads before you've actually taunted them. So if you've got loads of them, you can pin them, taunt him, taunt him, taunt him, pin him again, taunt him, taunt him. They're all yours. Enjoy. And then you can mess with that. Very, very good for controlling hectic situations, although some larger stuff in Trials can't be pinned, so that's situational. It's not for everything. A ranged taunt you do need. Go into Undaunted here. Where are we? Third ability down, morph it to Inner Rage. The reason I morph it to Inner Rage because I do have high Magicka recovery, so I can utilize this quite well without running out of juice, and I can also still apply the debuff with the stamina one when they get close enough. It's all about resource management with that one. Not to mention, of course, your team should be taking this synergy. It is absolutely insane, especially on a DPS. 38% chance to put a synergy ability on the target, basically. If you see if I can fire it off. It's not even... There we go. See that effect there? That's the effect as a DPS you want to look for. If that happens, take the synergy. It will blow up in area of effect and do a serious amount of AoE damage. Really, really nice. So that's more for the DPS, but make sure you keep this on a target if it's a ranged target. For example, instead of me running all the way over there and jabbing him, and this dude follows me and leaves all the dots because, oops, I ran away. Don't do that. It's a waste of time. All the DPS are going to scream at you. Just range taunt him and he'll come to you. Unless, this is important, unless he is a ranged target. Now, where I'm standing now is normally about right for him to be able to hit me if he's an archer or a mage or something to that effect. Now, if I taunt him, he won't come to me. He'll just keep hitting me because he can reach. Now, if I want him to stand here, I need that gap between me and him again. So I'll run over here. He'll chase me until he's in range and he'll just about land on that skeleton there. And then you come back in, taunt them both, and pin him. That's how you pull a ranged target. Taunt it, overshoot it, let him come to you, and then come back in again. A little bit tricky. You have to use your brain a bit on that one, but that's how it works. If it's melee, it'll just come to you anyway. Heroic Slash, this is in the Sword and Board abilities. Second one you unlock, morph it to Heroic Slash. This is very, very simple. It applies a snare, but that's not necessarily that important. That ability there will apply minor maim to the target, just like the claws, but it's single target, so if it's just one boss, then you can just use that. But the reason this is very important is because this will give you minor heroism. This will grant you one ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 9 seconds. Now, wait till the ulti regens run out. Let's fire this off. Look at the ultimate. One every 1.5 seconds. You can see the ultimate going up. Now, a light attack or a heavy attack will give you 3 ultimate every second for 8 seconds. So if I light attack him, you can see it going up. There you go, the ulti regen. Now if you reapply it before 8 seconds is up, it will start again. And it will just continue. If you stack that with this, it goes up faster because they stack, you see? So you need to keep this up all the time if you can, and keep a light attack or a heavy attack up at all times. That's how you regenerate passive ulti alongside that skill. Now, another way to regenerate ultimate is this. Invigorate and Drain is absolutely insane. It is from the Vampire skill line, which we'll show down here. Now, what this does is it heals you once a second for 3 seconds based on your missing health. So the lower your health, the bigger the heal. Again, the larger your healing, your health pool, obviously the bigger the heal because it's percentage based. So if you're at like 10% health and you have 60k health, this is going to be a huge heal. If you're at 10% health and you're at 30k health, it's going to be tiny. So the more health, the better. However, this does have an extra perk. Morph it to Invigorate and Drain, by the way. It has to be morphed to this version. Every 1 second, you get 5 ultimate. Now, this is in a situation where you don't have to block much. Watch the ultimate now. 5 a second. 2, 3, done. 1, 2, 3, done. See, that's nuts. Now, let's put it all together. Light attack, Heroic Slash, Drain. That's really fast. Keep up the lights, keep up the Heroic Slash, keep up the Drain. You can build Warhorns very, very, very fast. And you can keep up your block ulti as well if you need to. Situational, of course, you can't use it for everything, but it's a very, very, very good skill to have on your bar if you can spare it. Also, this is ridiculous and not enough people use it. I've been using it ever since the first build of this came out, which was November 2016. You can check it out on my channel. It's been there forever. This is very, very useful in lots of situations, but not all. Now, what it does, if you're familiar with PvP, you'll know how it works. Mist form makes you immune to snares, it makes you immune to knockdowns, it makes you immune to immobilizers and all that kind of stuff. So you can't be knocked down, let's say that. You can't be snared. Also, the damage incoming to you is reduced by 75%. Also considering your resist and mitigation, all other stacking effects that you have. Yes, there are diminished returns along the line, but this is absolutely insane. Pop this, you do not get magical recovery, and you cannot be healed while this is active. But the leeching will still proc, so you can turn it off when it comes back on, and you will still regain stamina. So let's waste some stamina, for example. Now, if you block, stamina doesn't come back. Switch bars a minute. Stamina doesn't come back. Mist form. It does. Still regenerating. You got a bit of an oh shit moment there. It's not much, but it will help. Pop this as well. Not bad. Now, that's when you're in trouble. The reason is you can't be knocked down while it's active. You take shit tons less damage. Now, where is it important? Lots of different situations, but I'm going to give you a couple of examples. First of all, if that is a serpent from Sanctum or Phidia, an actual boss, or any boss in any dungeon or trial, which is the actual boss that you need to kill to get the loot you're after, that does not work on them. Doesn't work. That will cancel it, and it will just fall off, and you'll end up on the ground being laughed at. However, things like war priests in Sanctum or in Hellra or anything like that, or also the chain spinners and stuff in AA, anything like that, this will work. They will not knock you down. They'll hit nothing but air. You'll take bugger all damage, and it is amazing. Also, the axes in Ephirian Archive, if you are the tank holding the axes, and you get in trouble, and you need to get some stamina back, you can't quite fire a heavy attack, you haven't got enough to block with, your block ulti isn't up, fire this off. They won't stun you, they won't kill you, they'll do barely any damage, you'll recover stamina, just enough to get a block off, and then fire this afterwards. Really, really handy skill. It is an absolute lifesaver. And one more thing to mention, Asylum Sanctorium. This is for you DPS out there as well. If you can sacrifice a skill for the time being just to get used to it and just to practice, when that fire AoE lands on the ground, if you are in trouble and you've got nowhere to go and you are definitely not going to make it, pop this, you will not die. Everyone screams about vampires and fire. First of all, if you're a vampire, stay out the bloody fire. That's just common sense. Most fire will kill you anyway. There's 3 different types, traditionally, I guess. One big AoE on the floor, step out of it. Fireball aiming at you, dodge roll, or block it. Base mechanics of the game. Or if there's a big line of fire aiming at you across the floor again, just step a bit. Don't need to dance around like a ninja. However, the big AoE on the floor in VAS, if it does catch you and you know for sure you're going to die, pop this, you will be absolutely fine. Tried and tested multiple times, it is amazing. You'll take barely any damage, if anything at all. Not necessarily just on the tank, on the DPS specifically as well. Tank doesn't need to worry so much, you can just block. But for all you DPS out there, pop this, it's amazing. Also, when St. Ohms jumps, you need to get to the gates to kind of block and get out of the way. Sometimes people don't make it. Pop this and just run. Gives you major expedition, takes 75% less damage, and you can't be knocked down. It's all about how you use the vampire skills, not about just, oh my god, fire kills you. Fire kills everybody. It's about what you do to mitigate the damage outside of that. Okay, so I'll stop waffling on that skill, it's amazing. Also, this is a bit of a flex slot. You won't use it all the time. So what you can do is swap this for chains. Unrelenting grip specifically. When you use it, it gives you major expedition, so you run faster. It pulls the target to your feet, 22 meters range. And if it can't be pulled, if it's been stunned or CCs or any effect like that, or you accidentally try and pull something that can't be pulled, you will get the Magicka cost of the ability refunded. So you won't get penalized for doing so. It's quite forgiving. So this guy, I don't know if it works on the skeleton actually. That's the chain. No, he's stunned, but you don't get the Magicka cost back on the skeleton. But on general targets, you do. So if you've got any targets that have, look at the effect under his feet. See that? You pull something that's got that, you'll get the cost back. And it's got a pretty good range on it. Not quite there, but here. They'll come to your feet, claw them up, stab them, they're yours. So you can range taunt stuff, or you can pull them in. Situational, however. It's not useful everywhere, just depends. That is also, like I said, I didn't say actually, in the Ardent Flame skill line, it's the 4th one down, morph it to Unrelenting Grip. Now, Warhorn, very, very important. You will need to go to PvP for this. My honest advice for this is to find the biggest Zerg you possibly can, get stuck in, pull people in with chains and stuff. Just get aggressive, or fight inside a keep and just get those defense ticks. As long as you get some AP in some way or another, eventually you will get this, unlock it, and then just get out again. Now, this, when you fire it off, is quite expensive, will give all of your allies increased critical damage. 15% in fact for 9.5 seconds. Aggressive Warhorn, I might add, that particular morph. And it increases their max health, max stamina, and max health by 10% for 30 seconds. It's a massive buff. Try and keep this up as much as you possibly can during dungeons or trials, unless of course you need to fire off the sword and board ulti, in which case do so. Don't let someone say, oh my god, don't use the block ulti. Ignore them. If you're going to die, pop it. But the rest of the time, fire off a Warhorn as much as you possibly can. And I've already shown you how to use the ulti gain to your advantage, depending on the situation. Get some of that in there, and you can build Warhorns really, really fast. Light, hit, have some of that. Especially if you're the off tank. If it's already taunted, you don't have to mess around doing this all the time. You can just keep up ultis and you're good. Now, I'm going to go over some passives, which are very, very important. This is also going to help you with your ulti game. So we'll start with Ardent Flame. These are not hugely essential. This is all about status effects. You don't need to worry about them too much. This is for movement speed affecting certain targets. You don't need to worry about that too much either. This, again, is for Ardent Flame abilities, which we're not really using, so don't worry too much about them. However, this is very, very important. This increases the damage of your Flame and Poison area of effect abilities, one of which counts as the Leeching. The Leeching is buffed by this. So you do have a poison effect on the ground, firing off left, right, and center, and that will buff it. So you don't necessarily have to get these passives if you don't want to, unless, of course, you've got some spare skill points, but I would highly recommend getting this one first of all, or most of all, even. This is essential stuff. Oh, deep breath, by the way, if you're not familiar with this. This is a flex one as well. If you're in a situation where you've got lots and lots of ads and they can all be interrupted, instead of bash, 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 bash and run out of stamina, just pop this. It'll interrupt everything within range, heal you, pop, and explode. Really, really cool skill. I wouldn't put that in place of that particular skill, but just showing you how that works. It'll interrupt anything that needs to be interrupted. So you can back bar it or whatever, depends on the situation. Maybe if you're tanking the right side on Hellra, where all the Flame Shaper guys are. More passives. Draconic Power. Iron Skin increases the amount of damage you can block by 10%. So while you're blocking, you take less damage. Essential stuff, obviously. While a Draconic Power ability is active, your healing received is increased by 12%. Now this is absolutely essential to this setup. Dragon Blood, Minor Vitality, 8% healing received. Lovely job. However, because it is Draconic Power ability, while it is active, you also gain a further 12% healing received. So keep this up. It's not just a heal, it's a buff. Keep it up. This one's not really essential. We're vampires, so our health recovery is low anyway, so you don't have to get that, but if you've got spare points, why not? 3.299, almost 3.3k spell resistance. Dragonknights do get high spell resistance, which is why we plug our physical, because we don't get a bonus to that, but we don't have to touch our spell resistance because it's already really, really high. These are essential. That one not so much, but the other three, very, very important. Earth and Heart is very, very important indeed. Increase the duration of the ability, so obviously Igneous Shield lasts longer. We are using that. Battle Roar, this is essential. Anytime you use an ultimate, the cost of it reflects your return. So for every 1 point of ultimate, you will gain 51 health, 46 magicka, and 46 stamina. So if you use a cheap ulti, you'll get a small amount of resources back. If you use a big ulti like a Warhorn, you'll get loads of resources back. That's why as a DK, your ultimates aren't cheap like other classes. Nightblade gets ultimate back from popping potions. Sorks and Templars and stuff get cheaper ultimates. The Dragonknight gets no reduction to ultimate costs, but you get resources back for using them. This is how you keep up your sustain, how you survive, and how you utilize your ultimates effectively. It's really, really strong. Mountain's Blessing is also very, very essential. If you fire off an Igneous Shield or any Earth and Heart ability, your group members, up to 6, including yourself, will get increased weapon damage. 5% minor brutality, in fact, for 20 seconds. I'm using a shield every few seconds, so this is up 100% of the time. Not to mention also, if you are in combat, you'll gain 3 ultimate once every 6 seconds, as long as you use that ability once every 6 seconds. Which, as we've already gone over, Light Attack increases your ulti, Heroic Slash increases your ulti, Invigorating Drain increases your ulti, and once every 6 seconds, fire off an Igneous Shield, you'll get more ulti back as well. You can see where this is going. You can mix it all together and get loads of ulti regen. Really, really nice. But keep Igneous Shield up as much as possible to protect your group above all. Not just yourself, but your group. We have a lot of health. It's very, very strong. And finally, I went over block cost. I went over the fact that we don't block very often, but when we do, obviously it's going to cost us around 750 to block. which is not too bad. It's quite nice. But if we use Igneous Shields, we get 990 back. That, by the way, is nuts. So if we block an attack right there, then cast this, we've got more back than we used. If we block an attack and then heavy Igneous, we get a lot more back. In fact, the heavy attack alone using tenacity at 75 points, which I've got at the moment, is about 2.8k return. In fact, 2862, I think, is what we get back in stamina. So we get 2862 from this, then we get 990 from this. You can see that our sustain is actually quite good if we can manage it. Just don't hold this forever because you will run out. But because our magicka recovery is so high, don't forget, we can use Igneous Shields more often, meaning we shield the group more often, we keep major mending up, and of course, we keep our stamina up. And this all works hand in hand. Now, what else have we got? So Earth and Heart, this is very important, by the way. If you're leveling up a new tank, put at least 2 or 3 abilities on your bar to make this skill line level up faster. You want these as soon as possible. This is your bread and butter of your DK tank. Sword and Board, I'm not going to go too much into these, but you will want every single one of these passives, get every single point as soon as possible. It reduces the stamina cost of your abilities, reduces block cost, reduces bash cost, makes you move faster while blocking, makes you take less damage, all these shiny things that you are going to need as a tank using the Sword and Board. So get every single one of these. Light armor, ignore, we're not using any. Medium, ignore again, we're not using any. Heavy armor, we are using 7 pieces of heavy armor to tank us up to the teeth. We want loads of health, loads of resist, and we want to be able to be punched in the face and laugh at the enemy. Now, loads of resist, get this. Return, see the 757 return. Our block cost is 750. I think it's 758 actually. Once every 4 seconds, we get magicka and stamina back for being hit. 757 in fact. So we actually have 1 block for free every 4 seconds. Alongside our heavy attacks, alongside our igneous return, you can see that although we have a low pool, if we manage our sustain properly and our resources and look at the fight tactically and only block when we need to, then we can keep our resources up really well. Juggernaut, of course, the more heavy armor you wear, the more health you get. So 14% for using 7 pieces. We're tanky as hell. The more health we have, the more effective our heals because they're percentage based, and the more effective our shields. Also increases the return you get from heavy attacks. 25% increase. So for having a sword and for having heavy armor, we get more resources back from our heavies, which is why it's 2.8 instead of just over 2. And also healing received. We've got 2 bonuses to healing received on our sets. We've got Mind Vitality on our Dragon Blood. We've also got 12% in the Draconic Power passives. We've got lots and lots of healing received, and this goes on top of it as well. And if you were to use a full piece of Malabeth, which you can, you'll also get 30% increase from that as well when it procs. Just note, by the way, if you do use the full Malabeth helmet and shoulders, which you're more than welcome to do, it's insane, you will need to plug the resists because you'll be losing the resist from the pirate set, which means you'll want to put this on, which is your Major Ward and Major Resolve. If you do this, then you can drop some of your CPs in your resist tree, which I will go over in a moment, but you'll have to put this on. It will cost you, so your sustain will be altered a little bit, but stick it on the back bar somewhere and fire this off once every 20 seconds and you should be just fine. But if you are using the same setup as I'm showing you now, you don't need a resist buff because you are already hitting cap resists, which, by the way, if anyone wasn't sure, is 33,100, which is a 50% reduction to damage. And if you'd like to do the maths further on that, it is 662 resistance in either spell or physical for every 1% mitigation. So there you go, there's some maths for you to mess with. Now, other points that are important. Vampire, essential. Stage 2 or higher, you will get this bonus and you can take advantage of it. You will increase your stamina and magicka recovery by 10%. Now, I know lots of people don't have magicka recovery or stam recovery as a tank. I do because I want to use those skills all the time. I do want stam recovery because, to be honest, I'm not always blocking. So while my block is down, I recover. Very strong. And above all, undeaf. We are tanky as hell. We have lots and lots of health. We have really high mitigation, and our heals are based off a percentage. And we want to go quite low sometimes. And when we do, we have a bonus. We take up to 33% less damage based on the percentage of health missing under 50%. So the lower you go, the more damage you can actually take, and the longer you can survive, giving you that window of opportunity to take that massive Igneous Shield, Dragon Blood, and go to full health. It's really strong. These ones here, I mean, this reduces the severity of healing, the health regen that you have because you're a vampire and it's less. It's not essential, but if you want it, get it. And this one is more for fun. When you're crouching, you actually don't slow down as a vampire. Fighter's Guild. This is, again, a flex slot ability. It goes on, I wouldn't put it on the front bar, but If you want to, anyone in this area will get 8% reduction to all damage. Really, really nice. Costs a shit ton of stamina though, so make sure you're comfortable with your sustain before you use it. Or I can show you a little trick in the CPs in a moment to make this quite useful depending on the fight you're in. But I don't use it all the time. However, if you do use it, there is a little tip I can give you as far as passives are concerned, and you will want to take advantage of this, and that is in the Fighters Guild, there is a passive called Intimidating Presence, which reduces the cost of Fighters Guild ability by 15%. Doing so will make this 6.5k instead of about 7.5 or something stupid like that. It's really expensive, so make sure you get this passive. This one here, if you kill, personally, if you kill an undead, Daedra or werewolf, which is unlikely, but if you do, you'll get 9 ultimate. That's a bonus for free. Take that just in case you get the kill and blow on something, because you will benefit from it. Undaunted, essential stuff. Remember, this needs to be Bone Surge, not Spiked Bone Shield. That one I did kind of touch over on the first part of the video, but just to recap, make sure you get Bone Surge because you get the major vitality for your friends. This here, you need Undaunted 9 to max these out. You don't need 10. Go into vet dungeons, do them really fast to get the speed runs. Don't worry about the no deaths, it's not that important. That's just for achievement hunting, or it does benefit you, but you don't have to waste loads of time going for them. If you go through every single dungeon and get the speed run, kill all bosses and get the completion for it, as well as maybe a couple of pledges, you'll get Undaunted 9 in no time. On the NA server, I hit 200 CPs and got it by then. You can get it really, really quick. But these are why they're important. If you take a synergy, and you should be taking every synergy you see, you will get back 4% max health, max stamina, and max magicka. So it fills your pools. You can see there it'll give you 2.1k health, 400 stamina, and 400 almost magicka. That does benefit you. We've already gone over how much stamina we get back with heavies and igneous and potions and all that kind of stuff. This does contribute as well. And it heals you, so it's really, really strong. Also, Undaunted Metal is very, very powerful in the right hands. You need to make sure that you get this as soon as possible. If you're using 3 different types of armor, yes, you'll get 2% bonus to health, stamina, and magic across the board for each. So you would get 6%. Our stamina is low. Our magicka is low, so the 2% isn't that much of a bonus. The 6% isn't much of a bonus. 2% isn't either, but what we really want it for is to just give us those minor stats across the board anyway, including the max health, because this stacks on top of our heavy armor passives. Now at the moment we've got 14% increase on the heavy armor, and we've got 2% here, so that will push us to 16%. Yes, if we have 2 different pieces of armor as well, so one light, one heavy, this will go to 6%. Which is quite nice. However, in the heavy armor, if we remove 2 pieces, that will put us down to 10% here instead of 14. So we gain 4, but we lose 4. So we stay exactly where we are for the sake of tiny, tiny resource bonuses on the magicka and stam, and we would lose resistances, and we would lose bonuses here in constitution, which we don't want to lose. So go full 7 heavy armor, and you will be absolutely fine. You'll have max resource return, and you'll have max resistances. What else have we got in the skills? Last but not least, this is absolutely essential. Oh no, we've got class. I'm actually an orc. You can pick Argonian, orc, anything you want. You can even be a cat if you like. It's up to you. But I preference this. Basically, you have a good amount of max health, a bonus to that, 6%. You have a good amount of stamina as well, a 6% bonus there as well. But you also have 5% healing received. We already went over healing received and how much of that is stacking at the moment. We do have a lot of it, but this also stacks on top. Now, Argonian does have healing received and healing done, so it's slightly higher. They do have a little bit more health. They have much, much less resources, but they have a potion passive. So if you're comfortable with Argonian, or you want the Imperial for the max health, the max stam, and then the hits heal you as well, that's entirely up to you. But for me personally, I like the kind of mid area bonuses to all. I like the orc for this. He's really, really tough. And one more passive I really, really like for this as well, because you will be darting around trying to taunt stuff and move stuff here, there, and everywhere. Orcs are faster. So if you are trying to position stuff quickly, or if you're the off tank, for example, or even if you're the main tank, because this can main tank just about anything. In fact, it will tank everything, because there's lots of people on the channel that have completed all of the trials, all the dungeons, flying colors, all that shiny stuff with this setup. It's absolutely fine. But if you're positioning things, it helps to be a little bit more mobile. So they're very, very fast. But again, race choice is entirely up to you. This is just my personal preference. Alchemy. You do not have to max out alchemy and keep it there. Max it, dump the skill points again, and get this here. Medicinal use is insane. If you're using crafted potions, as most tanks use tripods, which gives you health, stamina, and magic back just for popping a potion, you'll also benefit from a recovery bonus for each of the 3 resources: health, stamina, and magicka. Now, obviously, health and stamina is covered with our dragon blood, but you want the magicka recovery. If it's a crafted potion and you have this passive, your potions will last 47 seconds. The cooldown is 45, which means you can have 100% uptime on your recovery bonuses. Very, very nice indeed. There is a video on my channel giving you an example of how to get max alchemy up in less than 15 minutes, and that will be linked in the description. What else have we got? I don't need anything there. We've gone over all the passives, we've gone over all the skills, we've gone over the armor, and now I'm going to go over the CPs. This is very, very important, and this is where everything starts slotting together, and I will explain in detail why I've done everything the way it is, and this will start making a lot more sense. Okay, now for champion points. Now, first of all, I put in 9% into Ironclad. This will reduce the amount of damage we take from our single target hits, whether it be a light attack, a heavy attack, a fireball, whatever. Anything that hits us directly, it will reduce the damage by 9%, which is very, very strong. You can put more points in here if you want, but traditionally I don't tend to put many points in here because I do that more for PvP. I like to balance out my resistance as much as possible, and so far, with lots and lots of tests, and this is the most optimal I've found so far. For this particular setup anyway, at least. 12% into physical poison and disease reduction, and also 12% into reduction to frost shock, flame, and magicka. You can put more into these if you want, but just remember, if you put too many into here, 1, you're going to hit diminished returns, and 2, you're going to have not enough points to put elsewhere. So balance this out as evenly as possible. 56 points is bang on the jump point, so that you don't actually waste any additional points. If you put any more points into this, even 1 more point, it will be 12.2%, which will give you no additional bonus. It doesn't work that way. You have to wait until you get to 13% before you receive anything else, which is a 64, I believe. Now, 51 points into here is dot reduction as well, so damage over time abilities. First of all, you get 90% reduction to them. Then you get their resistance type on top of it. So they actually stack together. So if it's a poison damage, you get reduction here, and if it's a damage over time poison, you get the 2 together, as an example. Now, I said a trick with high stamina cost abilities, especially since we have low stamina. Bone Shield or Circle of Protection, if you deliberately or accidentally get yourself stunned, this will come in very, very handy. Break Free, and then your next stamina ability within 5 seconds will be 80% cheaper. So after that Break Free, throw in a sneaky Bone Shield or throw out a Circle of Protection, and it's much, much cheaper. Pay attention to stuff like that. It's really important. Now, for the rest of the CPs, for the resistance tree, I put 6% into Expert Defender, which will actually benefit alongside any physical or magicka reduction you already have, and alongside any direct damage you have. So this will actually affect lights and heavies as well. So if it's a light attack that's a physical, for example, there's your physical reduction, there's your single target reduction, and there's your light and heavy attack reduction. So they actually all balance out quite nicely together. You can stack loads into this if you want, but if you do, you're going to be missing out on maybe one of these or one of these, in which case diminished returns hit quite heavy, and you actually don't benefit from it as much. Heavy armor focus, I did put a lot of points into this just to plug the gap in the physical resistance, because I'm going cap resist without a resist buff, so I put these points in here to plug what we're missing on the DK as far as resistance is concerned. Remember, I did say in the skills passives that we do get spell resistance as a base as a Dragonknight, but we don't get physical, so I plugged that gap there. Quick recovery. This is very important to make sure that we get the additional 5% healing received. Again, they all stack together. The leeching, the dragon draconic power abilities, all that kind of stuff, they all stack together, and this is additional bonus to that. Also, these passives are very, very important, which is why I make sure I put a few points in here. Field Physician, you will be resin people as this build. It doesn't die very easily. Most of the time, other people are all dead, and you're the last one standing. You will be getting them up. You take less damage when you do. And when you do, they have magicka recovery when they get up for 8 seconds. Quite handy. 34 points into Warlord to reduce the cost of Break Free. So if you want to break free from something, it costs less, and then you use less stamina for your next ability. You see where I'm going with that? Also, Tenacity. 75 points into Tenacity will give us 14% increase to our heavy attack return. So if we heavy attack, we get stamina back. Currently, we get 2862, I believe. If I push this up to 92, it will be 2882, I think. If it's what I was testing the other day, I think it was 2882. It's tiny. You barely get 20 stamina back for adding an additional load of points that you don't want to waste. Its diminished returns are way, way too high. Don't go any further than this. It used to be flat percentages, but at the moment, this seems to be pushing extra stats, very, very minimal extra stats over the 75, but it's really not worth it. So 75 points into here, 75 points into here. You hit the 14%. Don't waste the other 25 points trying to get to 100, because it doesn't really affect you at all. It's a waste. And you can use those points elsewhere, like this. 56 points into Shadow Ward. Will give you 20% reduction to block cost. Now, I did already mention what the block cost effects are, how they've affected the Dragon Bones DLC, and how diminished returns kick in. You will lose a lot by stacking too much into block cost reduction. So 3 sturdy, 20% in here, you're absolutely fine. You don't need to go a whole hog and go all reduction, because if you do, basically you're a perma blocker and you're going to skip mechanics by just hold and block forever. You're never going to need to know when a heavy attack is coming because you can't miss it. If you do that, yeah, sure, you can block everything, but are you really going to be pumping out any other abilities to apply some bonuses to your group or some shields to your group? No, because you haven't got the recovery to do so. So that's why I balance out high magicka recovery for lots of shields and a decent amount of block cost reduction, so that I can block the big stuff if I really have to, but I can then recover with high tenacity and heavy armor. So they're balanced. This here is very, very important. First of all, Vengeance is insane. For 10 points in this tree, you will unlock Vengeance. Now, read this very carefully. When you block 3 spells within 10 seconds of each other, so you block 1, timer starts again. Block 2, timer starts again. Block 3, that's your 3. If you block 3 abilities within 10 seconds of each other, your next magicka ability used within 5 seconds will be a critical strike. That doesn't just mean magic damage skills, that also means heals. So your Dragon Blood, if you block 3 spells in a row, will definitely crit. Now, the lower your health, obviously, the bigger the return. If you pop an Igneous first, the bigger the return. And if you have crit damage increase, this affects your damage and your heals. Now, I did used to stack quite a lot into this, just in case, but using Vengeance and taking advantage of it and everything like that, you really don't need to. So this is as high as you really need to go. I've tested this to a stupid extreme as well, and even going to as far as 2% health. If I Igneous Shields with a crit on Dragon Blood, I can hit max health in 1 tick. It's insane. Bless 75 points into here will mean that I get 14% increased healing done to all of my heals, not just Dragon Blood, but to the leeching as well. Yes, it counts as a heal, so this stacks on top of that. 25 points into this additionally will put me to 15%. That 1% is not worth it. It's bloody tiny. It doesn't increase the Dragon Blood by anything really, because I can go to full health anyway, and it doesn't increase the leeching by anything anywhere near substantial enough to make it worth spending 25 points. And I'm now going to show you where I do spend those points, and this is a little bit outside the box, but with lots and lots of testing, I've managed to make this as optimal as hell, and it's very, very strong indeed. Now, nothing in here. There's no point. This is all light and heavy attack damage. Why do I need it? I don't, because I'm a tank. I don't do enough damage. But why do we put points into here? 64 points into here gives me a 13% increase to physical and poison damage. Leeching is poison. Remember, the more damage it does, the bigger the heals. The more healing received, the bigger the heals from that. So make your flat base really, really high for that set. 64 points into here, and it is a damage over time. It does get affected by Thaumaturge. So you put your points into here and your points into here. I've tried many, many different combinations. I've gone full heal and a little bit here. I've gone a little bit here and loads here. I've gone loads here. Loads in this one and not so much here. This is the highest or most efficient balance I've found so far, and is very, very strong indeed. Now, it's not just boosting this that will boost the flat heal, and of course all your heal and receive bonuses that will make it really, really strong, that I've used this tree for. It's not just for this. What I've also used it for is 2 other bonuses. Now, many of you may be familiar with my original Easy Sork and Off Balance builds in January and February 2017, and then there was quite a large craze about Thaumaturge, and some information was out there that was correct, and some of it was secondhand and didn't quite know how to work with it, but basically that went a bit nuts. Now, Off Balance is a thing that has now been altered in the Dragon Bones DLC, and it is still as effective as it was in the past as far as the uptime of it is concerned, while it's off balance, while the target is off balance, but now it has a cooldown. However, we can actually take advantage of this. So when a boss or a target, or any target, is off balance, we will still, of course, do more damage as well. As a tank, that's not necessarily effective, but for the Leeching setup, it is, because that will improve the damage of the proc, which in turn will give us a larger heal. So this is actually going to benefit us, but that's not why I'm in this tree. The reason I'm in this tree is because obviously as a Dragonknight, you want to make sure that you can boost as much ulti regen as possible because of the return you get from it. Because you want those block ultis thrown out, because you want the war horns thrown out, and because we are a health tank that bases off the ability that when our health is very, very low, we benefit more from it. So like if we dip to like 10% or something, our heal's gonna be massive. We don't have to spam it. If we dip to like 10% or so, our Undeath kicks in, we take barely any damage. Also, if you go under 20% with this passive, you gain major heroism. Remember when I showed you a little while ago about how to build ultimate, well, this also works alongside of it. Instead of you dipping low health all the time, because you won't, you've got lots of health, you won't be a burden to the healer, but when you do go low health, at least once every 20 seconds, you'll gain extra ultimate, which stacks with everything we've put in place before. We were using minor heroism as one of our skills. This is major. Major and minor stack. And now we can use this in a legit method, as far as our layout is concerned, to take advantage of this without just wasting points for the sake of it. Most tanks, if they put points in here, would be laughed at because it doesn't benefit them in the slightest. But this does actually support our build. And this now we can get, and it's very, very strong indeed. So 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds from this, 1 ultimate every 1.5 seconds from minor heroism, 3 ulti once every 6 from Ignis shields, 3 ulti a second from a light or a heavy attack, and then 5 ulti a second from invigorate and drain. We can build war horns incredibly fast, especially under pressure, and the lower the health, obviously, while using a drain to get the ultimate back, the more we receive. So we can kind of balance our scales as far as that's concerned. It's very, very strong indeed. And like I said, you don't need to boost this any further. We can already hit max health with 1 crit, and nothing else we use crits. So we don't need to push this any further. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a waffle. Hopefully that made a lot of sense. If not, rewind it, go over it again. Anyway, next part. Okay, now we've got that bit cleared up. Let me go into Hellra, and I'm going to show you exactly what this can do in terms of tankability. Remember that the more you can stay alive, the more you can support your group by giving them bigger shields, the less stressful it is for the healers. I personally do not need a pocket healer. In fact, if I do need one, I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I left a gear piece off or something. But this is very high health, very high resist, very high survivability. Really, really good at spamming shields on the group. Really good at keeping other people alive as well as yourself with minimal effort. Good resource management as long as you're following mechanics of the boss and not holding block forever. And in doing all of that yourself, you are not a burden on the group. You're not ultra squishy. The breath of lives or whatever heals are firing at you don't need to be hitting you all the time. You don't need to keep hitting 5% health and the healer spamming heals to try and keep you alive and the squishies all dying. The healer can focus more on the group now because you don't require all of their attention. See those war priests over there? They're not nice. You. Now when they do their heavy attack, they will knock me over. Can't see a bloody thing. There you go, they can knock me over. There's a heavy. Boom, off we go. Now, I'm going to take the next one. Straight through me. Doesn't do a bloody thing. We'll do it again in a second, once the block ulti runs out. 3, 2, 1. It's gone. Okay, stop blocking. Mist form. Heavy attack's coming. Nothing. No knockdown. Very, very handy, and it works on the axes as well. And this is without a healer. I don't need a healer at the moment. You're never going to tank this much stuff. You never need to, but this is an example of how strong it is. Now, if you were to switch out the Pirate Skeleton for Malabeth, the heals would be even higher. But, like I said, you will have to put on a resist buff if you choose to do that. And that adds complication. At the moment, I do not need a resist buff because I am cap resist, especially if we have a combat prayer in the group. I'm running low stam as well. Switch to higher stam. Whoops, double up on my food. Let's get some resources back. Now obviously, when you don't have the magical recovery food on, you do have to pace your Ignis shields a lot more. But it still works just fine. Whoops. Woohoo! Dead. Okay, finally. You get the idea. Now, for really stressful situations where you got to put in loads and loads and loads of shields, I'd highly recommend the max health, max magical recovery food. In situations where you have to block a stupid amount, then I would use stamina and health food. So for axes, stamina and health food. For the warrior, perhaps in Hellra, stamina health food. For Sanctum Ophidia, Magicka food all the way. You don't need to struggle with that. She barely hits you anyway. It's a couple of heavy attacks here and there, and the rest you can just use to recover your stamina with Igneous Shields. It's entirely up to you. Whatever you're more comfortable with. Anyway, hopefully that helped. Hopefully that wasn't too much waffle. Hopefully I didn't confuse the crap out of people. But just to recap over some really important things. First of all, the higher the health, the bigger your shields. The higher your Magicka recovery, the more you can fire the shields. Don't forget to fire Igneous Shields before a heal, and if you do see Leech and fire off, it's the poison stuff on the ground, that's when you must have an Igneous Shield running because your heals are larger. Monster sets, like I said, you can run 2 Pirate Skeleton if you want, but just take into account that you're going to have to put this Polymorph on, otherwise your block's going to drop. Also, you can use 2 Malabeth, which is insane because it makes Leech even stronger. It's something like 2.5k heal a second per target, per proc. It's nuts, so it can give you, sometimes I think the biggest heal I've seen is 45k in one hit. It's nuts, and that's for free. It just goes off. But just consider the fact that you will have to wear a resist buff. If not, you can just do one of each, which is exactly what I'm doing now, and it's absolutely fine. CPs are set in stone the way they are based on the fact that I've done a stupid amount of testing on them, and that is the most optimal I can get out of them as far as the damage for the Legion is concerned for return for heals. Very, very strong indeed. But if you are under CPs, if you don't have max, don't worry. Just try and spec into them as much as you can, and make sure that you do get that major ward. What's it called? The major heroism, sorry. Also, stack and bonuses for healing received are very, very important on this setup, so make sure you do have those all in place, and make sure that you take advantage of one buff, and that is this. Keep that on at all times. It's not just a heal, it's a buff. Keep it up. That will make your heals bigger. One more important thing. Ignis first, heal second. Okay, first of all, if you're not subscribing and if you're not supporting already, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you'd like to support the channel outside of YouTube, there are some links in the description for Patreon, for Twitter, for Facebook, and of course the website xynodegaming.com. There are going to be many, many more builds coming. I'm going to be updating every single one for the Dragon Bones DLC, and some new ones are coming too. Once again, thank you all very, very much for watching, and bye-bye.